Welcome back to another episode of the Analyze This podcast. Listen, I don't even want to give you guys calls to action because I could do that later. I don't have much time with a legend of the industry. He's done everything from music to stand-up comedy. He's an actor, he's an activist. He's known for so many things, but I don't even have introductions for him. Give it up for the very funny, the very talented, the legendary Tommy Chong. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm fine. I'm doing great, man.
Man,
I got everything. I
you
got
still look
everything.
young, bro.
Yeah, I got everything done that I had to do today,
Okay.
and I had to go get my dog groomed.
Uh-huh.
And as I walked toward picking him up, he was already groomed, and I had to pick him up. My favorite uh, nail salon was open, and boy, my feet needed cutting, man.
Oh Lord. You had some eagle talons growing?
I got some what do you call it, sheet rippers.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I do jujitsu. I have to go get my feet done at least once a month. If not, they look like,
And they
somebody.
hurt people. Yeah, they'll hurt someone too.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
I had to tell the guy. I said, the left foot. He doesn't speak English, and I said, but be careful with everything. I said, just cut them. Don't nothing else. And he just looked at me like I was from Mars or something.
Oh my God. How
There you
often
go.
do you get your feet done?
Not often enough.
Not often enough. Uh,
No,
I feel like
once,
getting.
once every 6 months if I need it, or whether I need it or not.
So I feel that men should be more open about getting their feet done personally, especially like,
Who? Just a minute. Someone's calling me. Oh,
oh,
it's no one.
it's no one.
Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. I sent it to voicemail.
All right. So, Mr. Chong, you've been doing this a very, very long time.
Mhm.
I guess I'm sure you get this question a lot. What is the biggest difference between like a young stand-up comic today versus how you started? And what do you
Well,
see are the pros and cons and stuff like
well, it's like making love. In fact, it's exactly like making love. You're nervous, especially if you've been lying about it before you do it.
that?
But once it's done, you're so relieved at how much fun it was and how easy it was that you can't wait to get up there again, you know. Because the great thing about stand-up comedy, it's not the ones that you know have the funniest or the the most clever. It's the one that has the most balls, you know,
Mm.
and because it takes tons. And so in the beginning, I started late. I started well, I was in my 40s, almost 50s, when I started, when I really broke on alone, out there alone. Because before I went solo, I was with Cheech for so many years, and I always had a partner. And before that, I was in a band, so I always had people. When you go out there by yourself, all by yourself, it it can get gnarly, as they say. And yeah, it, and you can't, there's no, like I say, it's like making love. There's no way you can skip over the first time.
No, that's
you know,
true. I think everybody
you know,
remembers their first time.
yeah, you do, because it's your first time. And then if there's a second time and a third time and fourth time, then it starts getting blurry, because then I think you can tell that you've arrived when you start noticing the living accommodations that you're forced to live in. See, in the beginning, you don't even notice it. It's such a life and death situation getting on stage that you're just grateful that you went through the night. Then now you can go sleep somewhere.
Yeah.
But after a while, when you know what's going to happen after the gig, uh, and then you start noticing where you're living, and then if you're doing it right, you're sort of going up the ladder.
Of
You're
course.
getting bigger crowds, nicer venues, and a nicer place to live. Uh, but yeah, that is the most, well, getting on stage at any time for any reason, especially if you uh, say we're part of an audience for years. Because a lot of entertainers, they don't have a clue what it's like to be an audience. They've just been working, you know.
Sure.
But I was lucky. I had a chance to study, because when you're in the audience, you're actually studying, whether you know it or not. And I was very lucky because I was in a rhythm and blues band, and so I was treated with the best comedians in the world, and so I got to study that, and I had no idea I was studying at the time. I was just enjoying the life.
Oh yeah.
But now it's all that background that I had that actually, it was more than just doing stand-up. My life has really been ordained. I was just watching Muhammad Ali on TV. It's his life story, and it was on PBS. And I relate so much to Muhammad Ali
Interesting.
because I had the same cockiness when I was that young too.
Wow.
In fact, I actually saw the Muhammad Ali listing fight. I was with Muhammad Ali right from the beginning,
Wow.
and I met him too. And his life in the beginning, when you're young and cocky, you're Superman. Nothing can touch you, and you got such faith in you that no one can beat you. But you do take beatings, but you come out winners. So it's not you done it and lost. You got beat up and lost. You see, that can stop you. That can ruin you. But when you get beat up and then you win, oh, it's persevering. I'm going to close the door just a minute.
Okay, sure. Guys, that's a huge nugget from the man himself.
I'm trying to record it here.
But this is so great.
Okay, I'm back.
He's back. So I like how you kind of take the idea of being a comic to a fighter, right? It's not a new analogy in this industry. We all know it. But it's something about taking the early beatings, in the early years, that first 5 years of just sucking and taking those beatings, and you get a little better and you work your way up. But where do you consider a young stand-up like seasoned? Where do you see him where he's kind of cut his groove in the industry and you're like, that guy right there, he's a stand-up?
There's no one size fits all.
For sure.
And especially in the comedy stand-up world, especially because that really, see the truth is we are all humans. We're all individuals. There's no two humans alike. Even identity twins, there's always something that sets each one apart as being an individual. It's when we are lucky enough to realize how individual and how special we are. You got to come to that realization first, and then that separates you from the pack. And then you might be alone for a while, but eventually you will find your niche where you're supposed to be, in the scheme of things, because everything in our universe is ordained. And the way it's ordained, it's meant to happen. Just like the Earth goes around the sun without fail. It doesn't miss a day due to sickness or anything. It just keeps on its path. And the sun is going through the universe, and everything's moving. and everything's physical in our physical universe. And everything is either being destroyed or creating, which is the same thing. You can't create without first destroying. And so that's the nature of our physical universe. And that's the nature. And the reason we're here as humans, we're here to experience what it's like and to learn. And the thing is, the amazing thing is that each one of us is so individual because we've always been here. There's never been a time when we never existed. You see, eternity. But we are now what we are right now. We're humans, we're beholders. Right now, we are enjoying everything because as you evolve, you have, just like billionaires, for instance, they always have their entourage, or rich people, they have their entourage. They're not just there alone. They don't have to be, because they can afford to hire people around them. And the richer they are, the more they can pay and the more people they can get around them, if that is their nature. And so we're always helping somebody, either above us or below us, one or the other. And that's the way we are in the universe. And that's why we've been given secrets. We've been told the rules of life many, many, many times, written in books, written in holy books, written
Bible, Quran, Buddha, whatever,
by all the prophets. And before them, that's where they heard. They heard it from their prophets, and their prophets heard it from their prophets. There's never been a time when this wasn't going on, ever. And we're in the middle of it. We're right in the middle of it. And we always will be. But there are rules. And I tell people now, this is what I've learned, because I got into golf when I was in prison.
Okay.
I always liked golf. And there was a time when I lived in the country, I lived close enough to a golf course that when we were kids, we'd go hang out there and look for golf balls or broken tees and just roam around, like when I was a kid growing up, we had friends that we'd just pair up and explore, get on our bikes and go riding and just go exploring empty lots or warehouses if you're lucky enough to be close to one. Yeah. But we're in the country, and so I explored the golf course, and I felt there was something about it that I really enjoyed. And then I tried playing it one time. I had a nightclub where I had gangster friends that were shoplifters, and I'd buy their wares, whatever. They come in with a $200 suit. I could buy it for $25, And
we all have friends like that.
Yeah,
we all got friends. I'm Puerto Rican, dude. I got friends like that. I can tell you. I got friends that'll do a favor for me for $20. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, because you are a source of income, and that's what it was. So one time they brought me a set of golf clubs, and they said, just don't go to this particular club, because
it's like, listen, you can use it. Just don't go to the Beverly Hills one. I'm going to tell you, okay?
Yeah. So I used it one time. Well, there's such bad karma involved with all the stolen goods, that shit either falls apart or you tear it or something happens, You
don't get the warranty. The warranty is no good.
But I went out golfing with my brother. And he was a really good athlete. He passed, but he was my older brother, and so anything with sports, he was the guy that taught me, how to do all the sports, And the way he taught me was that I was like the punching bag, He'd say, "Did that hurt?" Yeah. Well, okay. Well, then don't come do that again, And that was the kind of lesson I got. So I got into golfing. Then when I was in prison, I was in there with a golf caddy, And it wasn't so much a golf. In fact, we never talked golf at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the line of work that he was in.
Yes, sir.
He was the assistant to this pro golfer. And as a result, he was like very important. He was like the guy's everything, his best friend, his advisor, everything. You know, he could confide. You know, he knew how to get to that soul. You know, to the core. And so Eric and I, we became really good friends in prison. In fact, he was in the hierarchy of the prisons because he'd been down for like 10 years when I got there. And so he's super smart. So he gamed the system right away. And we were in a camp anyway. And as a camp, so he ended up getting to have a private garden where we would grow vegetables for the food bank. But we were allowed to eat out of the garden. Therefore, all our meals in prison were these incredibly healthy, home-cooked, 4 hours a day meals
sounds like Goodfellas.
It was exactly. We still talk about. We meet every once in a while, and that's all we talk about is the meals and the good time we had. Because we not only had the meals, but we would eat in the TV room because everybody would be at the mess hall, the dining room, and so we had this big empty TV room to ourselves with a bank of television on the side of the wall. Now if we wanted to watch, we could, but we never did. We always sat, and there was just 4 of us. And we would sit and have this scrumptious, incredible meal every night for the 9 months I was there. I ate in the mess hall a couple of times just to have the experience, you know, because that is you couldn't go to prison and say you never ate in the dining hall. You know?
That's true. That's true. I mean, I never went to prison, but I did go to Bible camp when I was like 10 years old. So I remember eating in that mess hall. So I don't know if it's anything similar, you know.
That's another thing, by the way. Did you know about my Bible camp experience?
I don't. I would love to hear about it.
Because that's a big. I talk about it every podcast I'm on, because he asked me, you know.
I know about your experience with the DEA. I know about a couple of the other stuff, but since that's what's talked about, this is new to me, so I would love to hear it.
Well, what they wanted to know is how did I survive? And not only survive, I thrived. Mm-hmm. And I owe it all to my Bible camp experiences. Because, like I said, I grew up in the country. Now this is in the 40s, back in the 40s, early 50s. I was born in 38. Mm-hmm. So in the middle of the 40s, 45, 46, we went to Bible camp. And what happened was that we lived in the country, and in the country, no indoor plumbing. We had to carry our water, we had an outhouse, we had to use a slop pail for the chickens and the rabbits and shit that we had. We had a little garden, but for recreation, there was nothing planned. It's just like it's daylight, go play. We didn't wear shoes, and half the time didn't wear shirts. It was so warm, and just pair of raggedy ass pants. And so one time and we would wander over to friends' house that lived across the field, and we always went to the place where there was the most kids, because that was the most fun. And that was always the poorest too. And so one time my brother and I were walking across the field. I think we were on our way to one of our friends. I forget where we were, but a car pulls up. And when a car pulls up in the field, like way back then, it's like something's going on. Somebody died. They're looking for, there's no reason for the car to be there. But the car ended up being full of missionaries, and they're looking for kids to go to summer camp. And it was a church camp.
Wow.
And of course, we said, yeah, it was on Pine Lake in Alberta. And so anyway, long story short, got permission from my mom. And it was the first time that I was actually in a in a structure because we stayed at the church at night, that night, and then we left the next morning on the bus. And so we had a night inside where there was indoor plumbing and all that great stuff, you know. And so it was incredible for me at that age. Now I had to be about, I guess, 9, 10. I think that's the age of 10, 11, 12. Maybe, yeah, 8, 9, somewhere around there.
Okay.
But anyway, I loved the camp. My older brother, you know, he's 3 years older than me. Well, he went off and he did the lake and mischief and all the bullshit that, you know, bad kids would do. You know, he ran with the rough crowd. I got hooked up right in the middle of learning about how to pray, learning about the early Jesus stories, all these beautiful biblical stories. And I love them so much. I can't tell you, because in the morning we get up and there's no shower. You just go jump in the lake.
Yeah.
And then you wash off, and then you go on all these little trips. And that's where I performed too for the first time. I really don't remember the play that we were in, but each little cabin had their own time to get on and do the plays. And so at the end of the whole trip, they gave out an award for the nicest girl and the nicest guy.
Okay.
And I won the nicest guy.
I mean, of course, of course. You know, I like the idea that there are people I consider God's favorites, people that are more talented, more outgoing, more that just are blessed to have an opportunity. And I think from an early age, from the story, that you were given those opportunities.
I was chosen. I was definitely chosen, you know, my whole life. And I know that too. I was taken from my mother when I was a baby, actually. Wow. I can't remember. I kind of remember, I got memories kind of, or just her telling, you know, our early life, because my dad he joined the Canadian Army, and this is during the Second World War, at the beginning of the Second World War. And so we went to, as a family, we went to where he was training, because that's where you did, you know, there was no two homes, you know.
Yeah, no, I know. My father was in the military too. I remember when he was back in the day, so I get it.
And that's where you go. You follow them. That's what my mother did. And I was a baby. I was a baby at the time. And she tells me stories, and I kind of remember what went on. But then she got TB and tuberculosis and got quarantined for 5 years. At the same time, I got pleurisy. And so I ended up in the hospital for a year. And then the rest of the family, my older brother and my younger sister, they were taken to the Salvation Army orphanage.
Wow.
And when I got out of the hospital, I spent a year in the hospital. When I got out, I was taken to the orphanage too. So my earliest memories was being in the Salvation Army home for kids, you know. And that was my early memory. So in the Salvation Army, they started off everything with a hymn and, you know, praise God and you know, prayer and everything else. And so since I was a baby, that was part of my consciousness, you know. And then when we lived in the country, when my mom got out of the hospital, the only entertainment we had was church. The only reason to get dressed up was to go to church. There was no movie theaters, nothing. That was it, just church and Sunday school. And that's what we did. And when I went to Sunday school, I loved the stories. And to this day, you know, my connection with God started then. And just think, it carried me to where I am today.
Of course.
You know, and like I had a great discussion with God this morning. And it was one of those, why? What's going on?
Like, God, like, what's going on? You said you was gonna help me out. Like, what? Like, I told you.
No, I don't go that route. No, my thing is, how am I supposed to feel? You know, career-wise, it's crazy because I don't do anything without making sure I got that go ahead. You know, because that's what I was telling you about golf. The reason golf is so spiritual, I think it's the only really common denominator around the world that connects the human race with the spiritual world in such a way that golf is played by the same rules no matter where you go, and or whatever country you're in or whatever religion is playing it. It doesn't matter. It transcends religion, and what it is, it's a human endeavor that includes the spiritual world in a very, very heavy way, and a visible way too. You know, that's why people, you know, like a horse race or something. I mean, there's some ways you can doctor a horse race, but you can't doctor a golf match. You know, you just can't, and that's what makes it so spiritual when you think about it. And yeah.
That's interesting. That's the way I look at like jujitsu. I've been a grappler for over 10 years now. I've been doing some sort of wrestling, jujitsu, or judo, and they're all slightly different, and the rule sets as far as competition are different. But the training aspect, I've always looked at it as church for me.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, there's wrestling in the Bible, there's wrestling stories in, you know, other spiritual cultures and stuff like that. And I was like, we're supposed to be doing hard things as human beings. Let it be golf, let it be wrestling, let it be, you know, I think we're supposed to struggle in a way as human beings.
What you're really doing is you're really living in the physical world, because what happens with anything, the more stress you put on something, the stronger it becomes. It's just nature, you know, a tree, a bamboo, you know, instead of being blown over by the wind, it just gets stronger each time the wind blows. It just gets stronger and stronger, and pretty soon it's a hunk of wood that feels like steel. You know, it's so strong because it's resisting. And I was going to say about the jujitsu. What you learn with jujitsu is how to use balance, because that's what golf's all about. It's all about balance, and that's what really the human experience is. All about balance. And what you do with jujitsu is you use someone's bad intention as energy, and you direct that energy, you direct that bad intention into something that's favorable for you, because that's the whole nature of the thing. And if you wanted to even expand your jujitsu thing and make it more fun, take up Argentine Tango.
Well, I'm Puerto Rican, so I dance salsa, but I've never taken Argentine Tango. I'm down for it. If the great Tommy Chong tells me go take Argentine Tango, I'm gonna go take Argentine Tango.
I'll tell you why. Argentine Tango is probably the sexiest dance ever devised by humans. Well, you know, it started out as a mating dance in Africa. It was a dance that they would do with their feet. When the teenagers would come out and they would play with their feet and do these little tricky things with their feet. And it was like a mating dance. This is how the guys met the girls. Well, the good dancers, the sailors, who were obviously from Africa, they knew the dance. Well, they introduced it to the brothels of the free world, you know, the European world, because the brothels, they could go hire a girl, you know, and say, okay, here's what I want you to do. We're going to learn to dance, and this is how you do it. And every time I come into port, I'm going to pay you, and you come and dance, and we're going to dance this dance, because the Argentine Tango is a mating dance. Now, so Google it when you get a chance. Google it. It doesn't matter where you start in there. It just, and so what happens with me, my wife was very beautiful. She's an artist, and she's she's Wonder Woman. She is the kind of woman that you would expect a guy like me to end up with, you know, because of everything I've done in my life. 99% is because of her. Because when I met her, she was my muse. She was my coach. She was always my, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Or that sucks. Or what are you wearing that for? You know, it was that. But halfway through our relationship, she needed to become herself. And so she started taking ballroom dancing. And because I'm not a ballroom dancer, I couldn't help her there. And then she started taking salsa. Well, I had to learn salsa. So that's why I learned how to dance salsa. Although we didn't really become salsa partners ever. And then we started taking tango together. And then, of course, she kept doing it because a woman, you know, a guy leads a woman. And so she learned really fast and really quick. And I'm way behind as far as the tango dancing goes. But I tell my sons, I try to anyway, I tell anybody that will listen, if you learn Argentine Tango, you will become so popular by the opposite sex that you will literally, like I've walked into a room of dancers, and just because I look like an Argentine Tango dancer, I get girls hitting on me right away. Will you dance with me, please? Will you dance with me? Will you dance with me?
There is something to that, good sir. There is something to that. I mean, I've been dancing salsa since I came out the womb, and every time I go to a dance club,
What kind
I'm
of
from
dance?
salsa. I'm Puerto Rican, so
Oh, salsa. Oh, yeah, yeah.
My mom
Yeah.
taught me how to dance salsa when I was in the womb. You know what I'm saying? I came
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. So yeah,
with the 3-step right away. But it's an interesting thing that there is something to that. Like women know if a man can dance just by the way they walk.
yeah.
It's an interesting thing. Like
Oh yeah,
it's
balance.
very interesting. Oh, balance for
Yeah,
sure.
balance. It's all balance. It's all balance. I was studying my tango tape today. I was going through my photos and all of a sudden, oh, tango. So I hit it. Oh my God, it's this guy from Vegas, I think Puerto Rican, and he's danced with my wife, Shelby, and he's doing all these simple steps. Oh my God. And so I almost had an accident because I was driving and watching it at the time. but oh man, it's such a, well, salsa too. My life changed when I learned how to become a salsa dancer. I'm telling you, my chest got bigger, you know. And now when there's a salsa dance going on, you know, that
Yeah.
feeling you get, you know. I went to a rap party with Tom Arnold.
Okay.
He did McHale's Navy,
Okay.
and I'd just been dancing salsa. I mean, crazy dancing, you know, where I walked around with the CDs under my arm.
Yeah.
And I went to the rap party, and I went to the DJ, and I told him, "Will you play this?" And within minutes, I had a lineup of girls lined up to dance with me. and all the guys are standing in the corner, and you know what they're saying, you know, this asshole. he
Nah.
thinks he's so hot. Oh man.
But
Yeah.
it's also like, you know, the king of himself, you know, he's like, listen, I'll get you high while we're doing some high shit on the dance floor. You know what I'm saying? So okay, let's pivot a little bit. When was
Sure.
the first time you picked up the marijuana plant?
17 years old in a jazz club in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I was just there to listen to jazz, and the guy that started the club, you know, the head guy, the president of the jazz club, actually, had just got back from California, and he called me over and he said, "I got a couple of presents for you," and he handed me a joint, my first joint, and Lenny Bruce comedy record. Lenny had just come out with a comedy record. This is in the 50s. And I guess it was 58, 57, 58. And I put the joint in my pocket. And so he lit up his own. And I can remember the song I was listening to when I got high. It was Ornette Coleman's The Lonely Woman. by Ornette Coleman. Oh, and it changed my life. I heard that music I'd never heard like before. But you know what it did? And I was just thinking about that today. I was with Cheech today, and we were talking. Cheech had a bad fall. I shouldn't laugh, but we did some shoe promos, and he was carrying a bag of shoes and a bag of something else, and he missed up, and he went up. His feet went up and smacked his head on the car.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, it was a plastic car, so there was some give. It wasn't cement.
Yeah.
And so it really whacked himself. So we're kind of laughing at that. And but then I had to remind them that you're high. You were high because we got high all that whole day, for promo shots, everything else. And when you're doing promo stuff, you forget, that, hey, this is really potent shit. And so when he got home, he forgot he was high, and he misstepped, So it's so the first time I did it, it was it. I think I went to school. I think that Monday I went to school and quit because I knew that I was wasting my time. I just wanted to be a musician, get on the street. That's all I ever wanted to do is play music and smoke dope.
Play music, smoke dope, and you've had a very extensive music career before ever getting into the funny business.
Big time.
That
was my college. I really graduated with a degree in rhythm and blues, a degree in sort of primitive jazz, but a degree definitely in being around Black folks.
Mm-hmm. I apologize. That's the dog Nova. She's a little loud sometimes, but
What is it? What kind of dog?
It's a blackmouth cur. She's a beautiful little big
cur?
Big blackmouth cur. Curr. Yes, blackmouth cur. She's a sweetheart. Just a little loud sometimes, but she's a sweetheart. What I love about your story is that you've taken what most people would consider a bad deck of cards, and with faith and hard work, you've turned it into a legendary career.
Oh yeah. Well, I just called in promises. When you learn the scriptures, you're promised.
Mm-hmm.
If the Lord's Prayer tells you everything you need to know, our Father, everybody's Father, who art in heaven, not earth, heaven. Hallowed be thy name, right there. In other words, you're being told that the word God, if spoken in a hallowed manner, has so much power that it can heal the sick, give sight to the blind, feed the hungry, educate the ignorant. It can do all that. It can do all that. Oh. Okay, that got shut off. So what I learned then I just learned recently the power of thought, because I was reading, when the mass murders and the shootings and that, and people are saying, we're tired of thoughts and prayers. We need more. And I thought how ridiculous that statement is, because you can never get enough thoughts and prayers. You can say,
agree.
Okay, that's enough. I don't want any more thoughts and prayers. I want what? Action? How do you get action? With thoughts and prayers. That's how you get it. It's like saying, I don't want any money. I just want you to buy me everything.
No, it's, to me, thoughts and prayers is energy that you're directing towards something, right? Like, obviously, in my case, when I pray to God, it's like I'm asking, the Heavenly Father to look out after me and to bless me in His, how He sees fit more than how I see fit, His will. Like you talk about art, the the Our Father prayer is, hallowed be the name of the kingdom come, thy will be done as earth as it is in heaven. So it's his will be done to me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
pray that, I have these dreams and aspirations, but if it's his will to be done, it will be done. And I always believed in that. I've always believed in that. And I'm 31 years old, and people look at me now in today's culture that I'm the crazy guy. I'm like, oh my God, he's a Bible thumping believer. Oh my God.
Okay,
Shut
now,
up.
yeah, let me stop you there because I want you to keep evolving.
All
Okay.
right.
This is the second one. Hallowed be thy name, thy will be done, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Give us this day, give us just this day our daily bread.
Mm.
In other words, keep us focused on today, where we are right now. Keep us focused on that. Make us aware that each moment is as holy as you want to make it. That's where thoughts and prayers come in. Because think about what God is. There's so many things, God is this, God is that. There's some religions that prohibit you from even saying the holy name, God. And there's some religions that take it so far into the crazy world that, but it's nothing like that. It's nothing like, it's a thought. It's a thought. So if you ask the power that controls you, because you've given the power up to God, you don't have to say anything more. You don't have to ask for anything more. If you do, if anything, you're showing a lack of faith. Or what you're doing is you're reciting like so many heathens. In fact, it was the Christian Bible, I called them heathens, that would recite things over and over again. And then those heathens turned out to be Catholics and those kind of people. And they have these mantras that recite all this shit over and over again, And it's also like people don't realize that say there is only God. They don't realize how powerful that knowledge is. Because if they did, they couldn't be a Catholic. Because Catholics recognize Satan. Catholics recognize the power of Satan. And if you're really into God, you know that Satan doesn't exist, because everything God made was good. And everything that was not made by God was not made. Evil is only a thought. It becomes action. And when it becomes action, it's a big mistake. And there's one thing in our physical world that we have, is there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. There's an up and there's a down. In the spiritual world, we don't have that. See, in the spiritual world, there's only love.
There's only love, and what is
only
of love
love
or not of love. That's it. If it's not of love, it's not of the spirit.
That's right. That's right. And that's why when things don't happen, the spirit's not nowhere near there. It can't be, because the spirit got shoved aside. Because the spirit is so gentle, like a gentle breeze. The slightest bad thought can shove that spirit right away from you. Just the thought, just the thought. That's how powerful our thoughts are. That's what I was saying about thoughts and prayers. That's all we have. That's all we have. We don't have anything else. I don't own this house, really. I'm just living in it. I don't own it. And when I leave, who knows who'll get it, The only thing that I really have is my consciousness. That's all I have. And my thoughts. That's all I have. And so when people say, oh, I'm tired of your thoughts and prayers, they forgive them, Lord, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
I love it. I love it. Oh man, that is one of the most amazing, surprising things of this interview so far. I know that you went on Rogan and you talked a little bit about this, and I knew that you were a spiritual guy, but you just broke down the Lord's Prayer line by line and what it means for my
and how
audience.
powerful it is. How powerful it is. How powerful. That's why the word says, hallowed be thy name. Just the name is got power. What do girls say when they're making love? Oh my God. Oh my God.
Only if you're doing it right, sir. Only if you're doing it right.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm saying, and that's the nature of the message. If you're doing it right, that name, that hallowed name, will appear somewhere. And think about, I'm watching the Trump foliage, on TV with the insurrection.
Yeah.
I'm watching the Democrats herd the Republicans into the corral, where they're going to keep them for a few years.
Yeah.
because they're just trotting out all these insurrections and all that shit, a little bit at a time, and it's so karmic. It's watching karma, because when you go against people, when you go against the word, that's why they say this, swear in the oath, and that's what kills me when you see the bad guys, oath keepers. No, they're not the oath keepers. They're the oath breakers. They're breaking oaths. It's so crazy, and that's what you're going against when you lie. Anytime you lie, you actually give birth to a monster that only knows you as a father.
Wow.
You're the only thing it can connect to, because you invented them. You created that lie, and so that lie will always come home to you, and it'll come in various forms, like as a policeman, or as a jailer, or as someone to punish you because you told a lie. That's the other thing too. I've been doing a lot of thinking over the pandemic, and I minister to my good friends, ones that need it, and by what I minister is that I try to give people that need it hints of where to find happiness, for instance, where to find satisfaction. In fact, we were talking the other night about dreams. Now, I have a dream. It's called an anxiety dream. And my dream is that I'm somewhere and I need to phone my wife, but my phone either isn't working, I don't have enough power in it. I'm using someone else's phone. There's always some reason, but I got to get a hold of my wife. I got to talk to her in the dream. And it's maddening. It's maddening, because all you have to do is find a phone that works and do it. But it's a dream. And so I will never, and so I wake up. And the other day I woke up and I phoned my wife, because we sleep in separate bedrooms. And I phoned her. She goes, "What?" And I says, "I tried to do this in a dream and I couldn't get through to you."
I just wanted to make sure you're alive. We're good, honey.
Yeah,
You're good?
yeah.
You're good?
I just wanted to finish something, because it was so annoying that I couldn't finish, a chore.
Oh, and by the way, we need to praise God right now. You want to come over so I can make you say, "Oh God," a couple times? We need to praise God. We need to praise God. Come over real quick.
No. That's always a very personal thing. That's why they tell you, the holy books I got, they say the last thing you want to do is preach. The last thing you want to, especially in the family.
Yeah.
If they want to come, I'm always here. My door's always open. But the last thing I would do, although I'll tell you a trick I got. I got sick, and I got sick with cancer. And so I was recovering, and my daughters wanted to come over, and they said, Dad, what can we do? Make you feel better. I said, "Oh, will you read to me?" She said, "Yeah, of course. What do you want me to read?" So I give her my one of my holy books, The Master Speaks. It's a Joel Goldsmith book. And so my daughters started reading me chapters, and their life transformed. It was crazy. They're reading, and I knew the chapters, but it's always nice to hear them. And so I heard them, but by them reading them, my kids' life changed, all for the good. And so then my other daughter picked up on it, and then I would give them money for reading. I'd say, just for gas or whatever, but I would reward them. And then I realized, man, this is fucking brilliant. If you've got kids and you want to put them on the right path, pay them to read scripture or read holy books or whatever you want them to learn. Pay them to read it to you, to teach you. And you have such the rewards are amplified because we also have friends whose daughter is fighting addiction, and they're so wealthy that it's a problem of the wealthy, because these kids really don't have any other reason to do anything except fuck up their lives. They don't have any incentive to do much more than to get high and eventually die, live a troubled life and die. Don't ask me why. I think it's just karma. You're put in that position to learn that particular line of life, but I tried to turn them on to that trick of mine, and it didn't work. Well, they're not ready.
I get it. Mr. Chong, again, thank you so much for this conversation. I don't know if anybody's gonna get a lot out of this, but I got so much. You filled my cup with hope and just a lot of good energy and vibes. You don't need any introductions. You don't need any exits, but thank
exit
you.
lines either.
You don't need it. Trust me, you've done this all. I'll tag you on things, and hopefully one day we can meet each other in person and share a joint and keep talking about God, my friend.
That would never stop, and never stop thinking of God either. Because that was the other thing I tell people, that we all have a God app, like in our phone. Like Siri, instead of Siri, it's God. And if you anytime you need God, go to God and say, God, where's my phone? Please, where did I put my phone? And your phone will appear. Or if you need a parking spot or whatever you need, or if you need to get home. A lot of times I'll be too high. God, help me. Where do I turn?
That dank weed was a little. I overdid it today. Just. Where's my car?
Well, that's what I found out. In fact, I used to do years ago the burning bush.
Yeah,
that was the cannabis plant. Think about it. It told Moses, the burning bush said, "Hey, Mo, come here, boy." Mo looked around. What? And the bush is talking to him. Like, "Come here, boy." And the bush said, "This bud's for Jews."
That's funny. All right. Thank you again. Guys. Thank you again so much. You enjoy the rest of your day and keep going, man. I keep inspiring us, man. Thank you.
Ciao, bambino.
Yeah, ciao, bambino. Thank you.